For us, Paris has become a little gilded cage.
During the first lockdown, 200,000 people left the capital.
Big cities are still very popular, but now mid-sized towns are becoming increasingly attractive to people from the Paris region.
Hello and welcome to France in Focus. This week we're in the heart of Paris, a city that's attracted artists, philosophers, romantics, young hopefuls over the centuries. But in recent years, and especially since the arrival of COVID-19, millions of French people who were once proud to call this city home are now packing their bags and upping sticks, leaving the City of Light somewhat dimmer.
Celui-là, je le vois pas, mais les autres, oui, tu peux les mettre dans le carton.
Packing up their life in the capital to move to the south of France. The idea had been brewing for some time, but the SURAUD family found this year of lockdowns especially stifling in their Parisian apartment, making them long for a better quality of life. And above all, space.
It's the feeling of lack of air, of lack of space, which is quite normal in a city as packed as Paris is, but it's become totally unbearable.
We said we'd move in a year or two and that we weren't in a hurry, but then we thought, what are we waiting for?
The pandemic accelerated the move, but the City of Light had already lost its luster for the family. Over the years, they found living in Paris increasingly stressful.
Everyone is just really stressed, whether they're driving, on a scooter, walking, cycling. Everyone is a bit on edge.
For us, Paris has become a little gilded cage from which it's hard to escape and hard to re-enter.
We've lost some of what made Paris beautiful compared to 10 years ago.
The SURAUD are far from alone in their decision to put Paris behind them. Last October, Nicolas and his partner Constance jumped at the chance for a fresh start in Lyon.
We're close to lakes, mountains, hiking trails.
We're part of a new wave of movers, you could say. We've helped quite a few Parisians with their moves to Lyon.
In Lyon, they found a bigger apartment, cheaper rent, the possibility of buying. The idea of leaving Paris had been on their mind for some time.
We already knew we wanted to leave Paris. And when the pandemic hit, we thought a lot of things are being called into question. Our daily life has been turned upside down. And it made us more determined not to put off this plan.
It's a widely shared feeling, according to journalist Valérie Bohin. On her podcast, Ciao Paris, she interviews those who've managed to escape the capital.
I think it's really a substantial trend. Parisians have a lot of frustrations in common, but there are as many reasons to leave as there are people.
Last summer, my husband started working full-time from home, so we wondered, do we want to buy an expensive house in Paris or buy somewhere bigger and cheaper elsewhere?
Valérie longs for a life in the countryside herself. Creating the podcast has helped convince her to finally take the plunge.
Hello, Kelly Simon. You are the co-founder of Paris, Je te quitte, which is, of course, Paris, I'm leaving you in English. Thank you for being with us. First of all, what are the main reasons that people give you for wanting to leave Paris?
The first reason people leave Paris is for a better quality of life. What I mean is have more room, an outside space, be closer to nature, have less daily stress or shorter commutes, a better work-life balance generally.
And what kinds of people in terms of demographic are deciding to leave Paris?
The majority of our readers are families with parents between 30 and 40 years old, with young children or people who want a family. But we've increasingly noticed interest from other groups like the retired and single people.
Now, France has, of course, had 3 nationwide lockdowns because of the sanitary crisis. What impact is COVID-19 having on all of this?
We've realized that the health crisis and lockdowns have sped up this trend, with Parisians wanting to leave as quickly as possible. So for us, we've had a lot more people connecting to our website. On average, our audience has doubled since last May. We get almost 3 times more inquiries for jobs and property too.
And is there any reason why people should be scared or worried about leaving Paris? Is there an anti-Parisian sentiment outside of Paris?
You should know that a lot of people who live in the Greater Paris region aren't actually from the area originally and came for studies or their first jobs. So for some, they just want to return to their home regions, so usually they're quite welcome. And also, generally, attracting talent to a region means you dynamize the job market, and it's usually quite positive for the area.
OK, Kelly Simon, thank you very much. From Paris, je te quitte, or Paris, I'm leaving you. Thank you so much.
Merci.
Well, with other French towns and cities scooping up this brain drain from the capital, you may have already guessed this is having a knock-on effect on the economy.
For many Parisians, lockdown was a trigger, prompting them to take the plunge and leave the capital. Another important push factor has been Paris property prices, with a 40-square-meter apartment in the capital renting for between 1,000 and 1,900 euros. Some Parisians have packed their bags to move to the outer suburbs, others even further afield, often purchasing a house with a garden, as property remains a safe investment. As a result of these departures, property prices in the capital fell 3% in 2020, after 5 years of continuous increases, while prices in the suburbs have continued to rise by an average of 2.5%. Hikes that have spread to the departments and cities that have seen the biggest influx of Parisians. In Lyon, the median price of a period property stands at 10.4%, more than in 2019. In the southwest Gironde department, it's gone up by 8.8%. In the seaside city of Saint-Malo by a whopping 17.7%, and more than 20% for other towns on the coast. The arrival of exiled Parisians with their bulging budgets hasn't pleased everyone. Some locals are finding it hard to keep up with the surging prices.
Mustafa Touahir, you are from the National Institute of Statistics and Economic Studies in the Île-de-France region. First of all, have we seen an increase in the number of people leaving the Paris area since the very first national lockdown was brought in?
During the first lockdown, there was a massive wave of people leaving Paris. 200,000 people left the capital, mainly to go to the seasides and their secondary homes. Now, are these departures going to continue and become permanent? It's a bit too early to say, but after the summer break, we definitely noticed that there were less pupils in Parisian primary schools, for example. The numbers were down by 4,000 children. So some have seen this as a consequence of the pandemic and the lockdown, but we'll actually need at least 2 years to see whether these are long-term moves.
Is it fair to say that this is not a new trend?
For many years, there have been more departures than arrivals in Paris, with the exception of one period, that was in the early 2000s. Nowadays, there are on average 10,000 less inhabitants every year, because more people are leaving than arriving in Paris. And this, even though there are more births than deaths. So it isn't a recent trend.
Is this all part of a wider and longer-term decentralization movement in France?
Yes, people who leave Paris are looking for more space. They want a bigger home. Prices in the capital are extremely high. 9% of Parisian homes are in fact secondary homes. So the cost of living is what explains most of these departures from Paris. Numbers are balancing out, though, on a wider scale in the greater parts of cities across the country. So cities like Lyon, Toulouse, Nantes, they're attracting more and more newcomers. They're catching up with Paris, especially on the economic side. In fact, many people settling in these towns actually come from Paris.
Mustapha Touaye, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of France in Focus. Thank you very much for watching, and do stay with us here on France 24. There's more world news coming up.